So Death Stranding has been out for a month now, and the conversation surrounding this game continues to be contentious. Some people, like myself, really love this game. Others really didn't like it at all. And then there's some people in between, and, it is what it is. But there's been some discussion lately about the game's Metascore. If we go to Metacritic right now, you'll see that the Metascore, the official Metascore for the critics' reviews, is still the same. So from 104 critics, we got an 82% rating, which I guess by Kojima standards is mixed rating, but that is generally positive reviews. And then when you look at the user score right now, from 12,000 ratings, we have a score of 7.4. Now, the reason this is being brought up is because the user score has actually changed recently. This is something that was reported by a Reddit user, and it's a story that's gaining a lot of traction, and people are wondering what happened there. So here's the Reddit post in question. This is the Reddit user who noticed this change. The headline of this Reddit post reads, Metacritic removes around 6,400 negative Death Stranding user ratings overnight, bringing the score from 5.1 to 7.4. Note, what was removed were user ratings, not user reviews. A Metacritic user can score a game without writing a review. Now, you can actually see this if you use the Wayback Machine website to turn back time on this specific page. You can see right here that this is December 2nd, 2019, so a couple days ago. The user score was at a 5.1 from almost 18,000 ratings. But if we look at the reviews now, you'll see that about over 6,000 of them have been removed for a significantly higher score. And then this Reddit user further breaks down exactly which review ratings were removed. So it reads right here, total 18,225 has been changed to 11,878 as of the publishing of this Reddit post. Looking at it now, though, it's now at like 12,000-ish. And from the looks of things, positive reviews and mixed reviews were left intact, or so few of them were removed that it didn't make that much of a difference. Whereas with negative reviews, that's where we see a huge markdown in numbers, from 9,335 negative reviews to 2,906 negative reviews. So that is a subtraction of over 6,400. Seeing this, a lot of people are wondering what's going on here. On one hand, we could be looking at the removal of bots, of illegitimate reviews, from people who created a bunch of accounts and decided to review bomb this game to bring down that user score. There's actually a comment right here that's been sticky that shows the progression of the user score. So it began at a 6.2 on November 8th. That increased up to a 7.0 on November 10th, and then slowly that began decreasing until on December 5th that capped at 5.1 before the negative reviews were removed, and we got this 7.4 user score. So on one hand, we could be looking at reviews created by bots, illegitimate reviews, and ratings getting removed. On the other hand, people are wondering, is there some foul play going on here where Metacritic is artificially increasing Death Stranding's user score, whether there's something going on behind the scenes where people who worked on the game are trying to make the game look better. I myself don't know how the Metacritic user score process works. I don't know how Metacritic defined which user ratings were legitimate and which ones weren't. It is worth noting that we have seen this happen before, the removal of ratings due to seemingly an overwhelming amount of bots sort of skewing the score in a way that doesn't represent what people actually submitted. I've actually seen a number of people point out that games like Astral Chain and Fire Emblem Three Houses were also review bombed in a similar manner and had a lot of these negative reviews that were illegitimate removed. So this user, for example, said Metacritic did something similar with both Three Houses and Astral Chain. Apparently, there were a lot of copy and paste reviews in a short amount of time, some of which even mentioned the wrong game. A similar discourse can be found on Twitter among YouTubers. So SkillUp talked about how Metacritic just removed over 6,000 negative user scores from Death Stranding, bringing the user score from 5.1 to 7.4. This is very unusual. Metacritic, are you able to explain what went down here? And then Spawnwave right here responded with they did the same thing to Astral Chain when people review bombed that, seemingly because it was a Switch exclusive rather than multi-platform. Nintendo was the one who funded Astral Chain, that's why it wasn't exclusive. Spawnwave continued, it's mostly Metacritic making some user reviews just not matter to the displayed score, mostly the obvious trolling ones. And I've actually looked this up. You can see right here how Astral Chain, when it was first released, the user score was pretty low. This was at a 6.9 on August 31st, so a day after the game's launch, with 875 positive reviews, 13 mixed, and 411 negative reviews. But then you look at the results from September 6th, and you'll see that that number got bumped up to 9.0, the user score. And then this can be broken down as 1,136 positive reviews, 22 mixed reviews, and 37 negative reviews. So a huge amount of negative reviews were removed because seemingly a lot of those were illegitimate. And if we go back and look at Astral Chain now, you'll see that the positive reviews are now at 2,638, mixed reviews are at 74, and negative reviews are at 250. So this kind of adjustment Metacritic has in fact done before. So that's one perspective, but then I've seen others wonder, why are only negative reviews being affected? Why is there only a markdown in negative ratings, whereas mixed and positive ratings have largely remained the same? I guess the two possibilities are that there is some foul play involved behind the scenes. There is something going on where the user score is being skewed unfairly to more positively represent a game. Or we could be looking at a scenario where a lot of the illegitimate reviews happen to be in the negative score. And that's usually how that tends to be. Review bombings tend to happen on the negative review side of things. I honestly cannot tell you one way or the other for certain. I just don't know how Metacritic works behind the scenes. On one hand, I do understand it's definitely weird anytime reviews get removed en masse, and when a lot of those review removals happen to be negative scores. But on the other hand, we have seen occasions like this before where a game is bombarded with negative reviews before Metacritic corrects that, recognizing some of the illegitimate ones out there. Now, here's an observation that I made. So the user score before Metacritic stepped in to remove seemingly illegitimate negative reviews, the number of ratings was at over 18,000. Now, for the short amount of time this game's been out, that's actually a ridiculous number of user reviews. Compare that to a game like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which sold more than Death Stranding, having released within similar time periods. This game only has a user rating count of almost 8,000 ratings. Death Stranding's count has far more, even though it sold less. And now that the review score has been adjusted, it now has 12,000 ratings. So it still has more ratings than Modern Warfare, a game that sold more. But the discrepancy seems more consistent and in line with the sales of each respective game. But then again, maybe more people were just interested in reviewing Death Stranding and leaving a score for Death Stranding. Maybe it's a game that more people want to talk about. But I do find it bizarre that this number is so huge for a title that hasn't sold as well as some of these other games with far less user reviews, user ratings that are more popular than Death Stranding. So this could be indication that there were certain people out there who did use bots to barrage the user score with negative reviews to mark it down to a score that isn't representative of what people actually input. Or somehow, some way, Death Stranding just got so much attention that it did manage to garner 18,000 legitimate user reviews that Metacritic then decided to mess with for reasons unknown. What I will say is that I ultimately do want the user score to properly reflect what people input. If there really were that many people who didn't like the game to the point where the user score was brought down to a 5.1, that score should be kept. On the other hand, if there really was foul play involved on the user side of things where they did use bots to barrage Death Stranding with a bunch of zeros to bring the score down, I do think the score should be adjusted to more accurately reflect people's sentiments. That user score, I just want it to be the real deal. And that's not because I find user scores to be an accurate reflection of a game's merits. Far from it. For example, I don't actually believe that Star Wars Battlefront 2, even at launch, was a 1.2 type of game. It wasn't unplayable by any means. The reason this user score is here, the reason it's so low, is because people got sick and tired of EA's antics, this was a way for users to protest EA's shitty monetization practices, and that's what this is more reflective of. I think that user scores are wholly inaccurate when it comes to objectively judging a game, but I do think they do serve a purpose in giving you an idea for how gamers and communities generally feel about a game. So if Death Stranding is proving divisive enough where the user score legitimately achieved a 5.1, that should be maintained. But if there are people out there who are just trolling and just trying to bring the user score down to make it seem like it's more divisive than it might really be, then that's just BS, and that should be corrected. All I want is a truthful user score. I don't have to agree with that score, but I want it to actually reflect what the general sentiment out there is. But without any concrete evidence, I'm not gonna make definitive judgments on what's going on here. I'm just giving you the two sides of the fence. Let me know in the comments below whether you think that the adjustment on Death Stranding's Metacritic user score was done due to bots and trolls, or whether you think there's something weird and suspicious going on here. Drop a comment below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.